Hi, this is Maginomicon, and you're listening to The Full Motion Show, the podcast all about motion controls. Sit back, relax, and open your mind. Motion controls get a lot of flack. Back in the early days of motion control, that is, half a decade ago, the Wii was the only contender. Some people were excited, some people were scared, some people hated what it represented, and then there were people like me. I've always believed that this was the path gaming hardware would follow. I mean, in terms of where gaming could go, we either have the path to the holodeck or the path to the Matrix. I realized a long time ago that the human brain is far more complicated than science fiction gives credit. The Matrix just wasn't going to happen any time in the near future. So, growing up a Star Trek fan of sorts, and a core gamer, I watched every episode of Star Trek I could that involved the holodeck. When the Wii was announced, I was ecstatic. The Wii represented the first real push to make control schemes that emulated the holodeck. So when the Wii was announced, and we didn't yet know its limitations, I started to imagine what Wii control scheme would best emulate the holodeck. Those ideas wouldn't start to manifest into something viable until late 2007, after a student at Carnegie Mellon University showed the world that experiences remotely similar to the holodeck weren't quite as far away as we thought. That student, Johnny Chung Lee, realized something which was pretty obvious, actually. We all know that the WiiRemote's pointer works by tracking the 3D location of the infrared lights on the Wii sensor bar. The pointer itself has 4 DOF, or degrees of freedom: horizontal movement, vertical movement, transverse movement, and rotational movement, or in short, strafe, slide, move, and roll. What Johnny Lee realized was that from the perspective of the WiiRemote's IR camera, like any camera, perception is relative. The camera always perceives the sensor bar lights as moving, even if we know it's the camera that's moving. Therefore, it makes no difference from the perspective of the WiiRemote's IR camera if it remains still and the sensor bar is moving. Johnny Lee discovered you could use this to track the 3D location of a moving sensor bar. He posted a video demonstrating software that tracked a player's head this way, and game journalists went nuts for a few months. His system had a couple of flaws. First, using it would require that players get some extra equipment. Some kind of stand for the WiiRemote so you could point it up at you, and headgear with 2 infrared lights mounted on it. This pretty much killed it dead without anyone really asking why. The second, and technically more damning issue, was that it simply wasn't good enough. Gamepads as we know them have 2 joysticks, the axes of which control move, forward, back, strafe, left, right, look, up, down, i.e. pitch, and turn, left, right, i.e. yaw. If we ever want to replace those joysticks with motion controls in an attempt to emulate the holodeck, we need motion controls that could handle their degrees of freedom. Johnny Lee's head tracker used the same tracking method as the Wii sensor bar, just in reverse, so it had the same 4 degrees of freedom: strafe, slide, move, and roll. It had the wrong set of DOF, so the only way we'd be able to replace the 2 joysticks with Johnny Lee's head tracker was if we mapped the joystick axes to DOF that didn't fit. You'd have to do stuff like lean your body to turn, or crouch to look up. Even if it was reasonable to expect players to buy extra equipment, it would never become a viable gaming peripheral because it would be too awkward to use. That was in December 2007. Fast forward a few months to June 2008. A Swiss coder by the name of Manuel Unternauer fixed Johnny Lee's head tracker, giving it the 2 degrees of freedom it would have needed to become a viable gaming peripheral. The solution was so simple. Want to guess what it would have taken to make Johnny Lee's head tracker viable? 1 more light. 1 more stinking infrared dot on the player's head. With 3 IR lights arranged in a triangle, the head tracker can track the player's head in all 6 degrees of freedom: move, strafe, slide, yaw, pitch, and roll. No one in the gaming press noticed this achievement. There wasn't even a twitch. Granted, in June, the press was full of pre-E3 hype, so that probably had a lot to do with it. A month later at E308, Nintendo announced the Wii MotionPlus, and unbeknownst to them, the dawn of console generation 7.5. The Wii MotionPlus was advertised as a one-to-one motion tracker. One-to-one means that for every inch the tracker is moved in real space, a VR representation of the tracker would also move exactly 1 inch. Many thought, finally, the WiiRemote we should have had at launch. A week or so after E3, the company that developed the Wii MotionPlus device, AiLive, released a video which seemed to prove that yes, the Wii MotionPlus was indeed a one-to-one motion tracker. Being one of the few who knew about Manuel Unternauer's 6DOF head tracker, my imagination ran wild. Over the course of the following months, I came up with loads of crazy ideas for ways to combine the 6DOF head tracker and the Wii MotionPlus. By May 2009, I'd perfected a number of theories. I won't go much into the details, but I had figured out a way to calibrate each one to the other's real-world location. This theory was of a half-motion system, since it could effectively track half the player's body. I figured out a way to use the MotionPlus to make a virtual map of the player's gaming room. I invented a simpler, far more viable WiiRemote stand, essentially a weighted rubber wedge, and most notably, I discovered what it would take to remove the need for any kind of stationary head tracker whatsoever. Like I said, crazy ideas. If you want to know more, you can read about them on fullmotion.org. Oh, and I also realized the perfect control scheme for half motion or full motion, but I'll get to that later. This was all made irrelevant by the fact that the entire time I was designing this half motion system for the Wii, Sony was working on their own half motion system, and Microsoft was working on a full motion system. At E3, June 2009, Microsoft and Sony announced and demoed their own motion controllers. I think it's safe to say that most everyone saw this coming. Many prayed that it wouldn't happen, but even they probably knew, like I did, that it was inevitable. You've probably all seen the E309 presser videos, and if you haven't, you can find them on fullmotion.org. It's now been over half a year since the Wii MotionPlus was released to the public, and according to Wikipedia, only 2 released games to date require it. Wii Sports Resort, essentially a tech demo, and Red Steel 2, which doesn't really try to implement one-to-one controls. In about a dozen more, it's optional. The jury's still out on whether the Wii MotionPlus actually is a one-to-one motion tracker. I've been told many have had to recalibrate the Wii MotionPlus every 5 minutes you play Wii Sports Resort because the handling gets wonky. I've never had to recalibrate for that reason though, and I've played Wii Sports Resort extensively. The developers of the device, AiLive, were able to provide a few examples of the Wii MotionPlus moving in VR space seemingly one-to-one in their video, but to date no games have been built that undeniably prove it. Without irrefutable proof that the Wii MotionPlus can do persistent one-to-one motion tracking, most of my theories about what we can do with it are pretty much moot. You know, now that I think of it, the PlayStation Move could use the 6DOF head tracker. It already has a camera, and it's probably capable of recognizing an IR light triangle. I should look into that. And that's all the time we have for now. I'll try and put together Part 2's visuals and upload it as soon as possible, but I'd probably have to wait until after my finals. See you next time.